Hello, and welcome to Unity Church on the Mountain from my home. The title of the talk today is The Song Remains the Same. But before the talk, let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. And just breathing together, we relax into this moment, secure that all is in divine order and that we are exactly where we're meant to be right now. And together let us affirm our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And the title of the talk again is The Song Remains the Same. If you've ever listened much to music, then you've heard a song that might be recorded by one artist, and then later it's recorded by another artist. And the song, which is the same song, is a little different. But the song remains the same. And then look at a different scale. Let's look within the song. Within the song you will have notes. They rise and they fall, and they follow the rhythm, and they give you a melody. And it's changing throughout the song. You have different verses. And you have a chorus, and they're slightly different. They're changing within the song, and the song remains the same. The song is an analogy to the world in which we live, or the universe. You can think of the sum of creation, everything that is, as a song. And the song remains the same. And yet within the song, people are born. They live out their lives and they make their transition. We can see the planets moving around the sun. We can see the suns as they move within the galaxy, and the galaxies within the universe as they move relative to one another. This is the notes of the song of the spheres, the song of the universe. These individual notes, they rise, they fall, they move next to each other. But the song itself remains the same. It's a matter of perspective. You have probably heard me talk about upgrading our operating system. We upgrade our operating system because when we're born, we begin developing an operating system of the head. I call it the subject-object operating system. It's the way of seeing the world, our way of viewing the world that allows us to survive in the world. It's valuable to us. It helps us to make decisions. It helps us to do the jobs that we do so that we can make a living, so that we can survive in this relative world. In this relative world. But there is something more. I think everyone listening to my voice right now has felt this tug of something more. I can remember when I was a much younger man feeling this tug and not knowing what would satisfy this longing. I would look outside of myself. One of the places I looked to was music or a book, gaining more knowledge, or maybe just a certain experience. I can remember going to my favorite bookstore and just browsing through there, looking at the books, and waiting for a certain book to speak to me. But all of this searching and all of this looking outside never brought me that experience that would satisfy the longing. That longing is Spirit tugging on our heart, calling us back to itself, calling us into the presence of Spirit. When we upgrade our operating system from the subject-object operating system of our head to the heart-centered operating system, now we can experience that presence. Now we can come to have a knowing, not an intellectual understanding, but a knowing of the absolute. It is in the absolute where truth principles live. It is in the absolute where everything remains the same. So in my analogy from earlier, the absolute is the song, and the relative world are the notes within the song. We are the expressions of the divine. Remember divine order, from divine mind, divine ideas, the absolute, and their expression. And now we're in the realm of the relative world. Now, I think I should remind you here that all of these things that I'm talking about, such as divine order, divine mind, relative world, absolute, these are just ways of modeling, ways of helping us to wrap our intellectual mind around something that's way beyond its ability to grasp. So what we're doing is, in the subject-object operating system, we're building a scale model that approximates our understanding of the universe, of the self-existent consciousness. You might be noticing something a little different this morning. I'm wearing a flannel shirt and I'm drinking some warm coffee. Fall has arrived in North Alabama, and it's one of the example of these notes that are changing, our seasons. And yet the whole stays the same. I think if you step back, you can see this. And you might be wondering, why would practical Christianity even need to discuss this? And the reason is, as I said earlier, it's about our perspective. If we have a focused perspective, you might say tunnel vision, where we're only seeing that which is right in front of us right now, it's difficult to see the larger picture. From that tunnel vision perspective, in the subject-object operating system, everything is changing. You've probably heard the little statement that says, the only thing that remains the same is change. And yes, but doesn't change remain the same? And that's really what we're talking about here. is how we can have this changing and constantly moving dynamic creation that's ongoing, that we are an expression of spirit in this world, and we see all of the time so many things changing. They say about the weather in Alabama that if you don't like the weather, just wait a little while, because it's going to change. But within the big picture, that's where things are absolute. It's in a different realm. It's the same thing seen from a different perspective. When we perceive from the heart, these paradoxes, they make sense. So having this ability to look from a different viewpoint gives us something that we don't have if we're constantly in the middle of the change and feeling the apprehension, the stress that comes from not ever knowing what's going to happen. From dwelling on the past, from worrying about the future and never really focusing on the present moment. It is in the present moment that we can experience this heart-centered operating system and know the presence and the absolute. And what it does, by having this ability to move into the present and move into the presence, is we can develop a resilience about us. So that the constantly changing relative world doesn't have such a large effect on our still center. In other words, the things that happen around us that we call traumatic events or stressors, they're still the same event. But the way we bring it into ourself, our experience of that event, the impression that it leaves on our inner being, isn't fluctuating in this wide, huge range that the outer world is changing in. When we can develop this resilience as a result of our perspective, we can keep a much more calm center that moves around the center in smaller waves instead of the large waves that are going on around us. Yes, we still move. We move around that center, but we maintain a calm and stillness that allows us to have the resilience so that we don't get stressed out, so that we don't get overly anxious or angry, so that our keel, our center, remains just moving around that presence. And that's why having this broader perspective that I'm summarizing as the song remains the same can help us in our practical Christianity, in our practice of the truths as taught by Jesus. He taught us about the kingdom of heaven. He mentions it over and over. It is the good news that the kingdom of heaven is right here and among us. It is now. And I'm not talking about the afterlife here. That heaven is a different thing. This kingdom of heaven is among us. You know, it's like the leaven in the bread. It's like the wind. It comes and it goes, but we don't know where it's coming from or where it's going to. So many of these statements of Jesus were helping us to get out of our subject-object operating system and move into that heart-centered operating system. He told us in the Sermon on the Mount that blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Pure in heart. Those who are able to see purely from their heart can see Spirit. They can see this absolute. They see God. So as we move through our daily life, the invitation today is to see things from a different perspective. And know that if you don't like the weather, just have some patience, because it will change. Whatever it is that's moving around us, causing, these events, the situations that we can easily perceive as being terrible things. And maybe yes. But they don't have to have the same effect on our inner life. The impressions that they leave do not have to travel at the same shifts from up and down and all around, that we can, from a different perspective, maintain a much more level, a much more balanced inner life, where we're moving around that center that we call the presence of Spirit. I would like to sing a song for you this morning. It's called Traveling on My Way, or Traveling on Your Way, I think I changed the title to. It's one I've written quite some time ago. And I wrote it for myself as a reminder about my walk through life. About what it is, how it is that I can change my perspective and maintain that balance, no matter what's going on around me. So take this opportunity to allow these ideas that we've been talking about to just move into your unconscious part of your brain, and just let them roll around as you just let and allow the music to flow by you. And just enjoy the moment right now. Not thinking about the past and not yet contemplating the future. Just being right now in the presence of Spirit. Waves roll on in oceans of sound. The wheel keeps turning and going around, but silently hearing the sound shoes and to carry the load. Hear the birds sing in their free-hearted song. Sing it yourself all the day long while you're walking along by the side of the road. Singing this song is the key to the code. Riding along in the course of the day. Singing this song, traveling on your way. So as you're walking along by the side of the road or wherever it is that you're walking, I invite you to look at what perspective are you seeing the world from. Look to the center. Look to that presence that we find when we see from the heart. It works if you work it. And now let us affirm together the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. And wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Thank you.